Hi, I'm Joanna Hunter, owner and founder of Piglets Pantry. I'm here today to meet with Derek Chapman, former director of Brighton, Hove, Albion, and responsible for building the beautiful AMEX Stadium.
Hi Joe, I'm Derek, as I've been introduced, and I have some involvement with Piglets pies and the reason why they were used at the AMEX.
So can you tell me a bit more about what happened, and from your point of view? Obviously I know it from my point of view when I was running up and down to Withing, bringing lots of samples and stuff to you all. Can you explain from your point of view kind of how the decisions were made, what the process was, what you went through, what the kind of thoughts were as to how you chose the pies?
Yes, so when we built the AMEX, we had a project office in what was the old creche at Withing Stadium. It was a creche in the week and the boardroom at weekends for the games. And then it became a project office, so we had all the drawings and the plans and organised the building the AMEX. And during the construction period, Azure were the preferred catering contractors. The ladies from Azure set up in there as they started marketing and sorting out the catering for the AMEX, etc. And I think it was a little bit jokingly, and probably because of my red-towned figure, they suggested that they need to choose the pies. So I thought, well, let's do this seriously. So they brought the three companies' pies in. So I produced a matrix, which was texture, taste, and the most important thing was dribblability, because as a football fan, you don't want to bite into the pie and end up on your Brighton Hove Albion shirt. So dribblability was one of the key issues. So, and I did take it serious. I am very serious about eating pies, as you can imagine. It's good for me. And I did take it seriously, so I had a nice glass of water to refresh the palate in between the pies. I had the matrix, and I tested the pies. And in all honesty, the winner was Piglet pies, and that was based on the certain categories, and I scored it out of 10, and Piglets won quite easily. So that's the story, and there is a picture in the West Stand, along the West Stand concourse, lower concourse. There's pictures of the stadium being constructed, and one of me is with my bib testing the pies. So one of my biggest claims to fame, and connoisseurs of great foods of the world, I do discuss this story often, is I chose the pies for the AMEX. And of course, it's now the pies for various stadiums around the country. And as I go to different places, now with the fans, I always have a pie, and I know by far the best are Piglets. So, Piglets pies, number one, Brighton Hove Albion, number one.
Excellent, that's a really nice story. So is it just your choice alone, or did you have to?
Well, I'm sure there were commercial aspects, but they did this little test. Okay. And it was a blind test, and that's I'd like to think it was just me. I'm sure there was other commercial reasons, but for taste, etc. alone, that's the reason.
Excellent. And what's your favourite pie?
My favourite pie it's got to be the steak and ale.
The steak and ale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Closely followed, of course, by the chicken and leek.
Chicken gammon and leek. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
And if you could design a brand new pie, what would you like to see us try and do?
Well, you should have actually asked me a question so I could really research it.
Now it's come.
It's absolutely come. I don't know. What kind of pie would I? Perhaps a fish pie.
A fish pie.
A fish pie, just be different. And we are by the sea, and we are the seagulls. So perhaps
maybe a fish pie.
A fish pie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Salmon and prawn, it'd just be quite nice.
When we're going back sort of 15 years now, we probably should say that to the viewers. So we started this off 15 years ago, it's our 15th season. When we went back then, did you have any idea, all of you, how popular the beer and the pies, having chosen them locally, was going to be? Did you think it would be as successful as it was?
There's another little story. The pies and football go together. But the fans came to us and said they wanted real ale. And my experience, and I watched football around the world, it's a sort of lager, cold lager. And anyway, the guys went, we want real ale. And I did think, we'd get sort of 20 barrels in and it'd be wasted and tipped away. And of course, they got Harvey's Brewery, and I think in the first game alone they drank about 8,000, 9,000 pints. So it's I always thought we should put a pipeline from the brewery to the AMEX and just pump it through, which would be better.
I think we've got one to the factory actually as well.
So I think to use local products, Shoreham and Lewis, either side of the stadium, is so good. And from sustainability and just it's nice to keep it within your own area, employ people in the area, products in the area. I think it's a real feather in our cap.
So kind of following on from the excellent decision you made, and we're very grateful for that decision. We started off, we were the first people to actually cook at the stadium. So we actually decided, because at the time when we went into business, we'd only been in business a few months, we didn't actually have the space to produce 2,500 pies, which was the original remit. So Elliot, at the time, who was a catering manager, organised, we got down sort of midnight conversations, and we decided that we'd make them on site. And we'd have like the first, handmade pies on site, made from Harvey's Ale, made from local ingredients, and this would be a really great story. And it was, and the PR went a little bit nuts, really. It was Sky came down. I remember we were on Meridian, all the radio stations were publicising it. And I think at the time when we set out, most stadiums don't really sell more than about 2,500 pies on average. So that going back 15 years, we opened up the doors. I think it was the Tottenham match, the first match, wasn't it? Yeah. So we opened up the doors to the Tottenham match, and there was a real kind of like goosebump. I'm even walking around. I remember the hairs on my arms sort of standing with everyone being there and how amazing it was. And we sold out, but that didn't last very long because we sold out the pies in 10 minutes. So I remember Martin coming knocking on the door, same as Harvey's really, and saying, you're going to have to make double J. And we had such a small team on it, all hand crimping, hand making them. We had no real machinery or anything. And we were like, this is like a tall order. But we pulled it out of the bag. We got people involved. We rang around and rallied round. We got to 5,000 pies, and the fans still ate us out of house and home. We still didn't get to the actual full game of football, which was a little bit of a problem. Once we got to 7,500 pies, the chef, I think, had a bit of a meltdown. There was pies coming out of every kitchen, every space we had, and it just wasn't sustainable, really. So we had to leave site and go and find the premises where we are now in Worthing. So we moved out and set up in about 3 days. It was really, again, you talk about local, but the chef at the university was really amazing at that time, and he gave me tips on, somebody had a unit that was already decked out in Worthing, and he gave me some equipment they were getting rid of. It was really sort of rallying around. Everyone was amazing, and I still, to this day, I'm very grateful for everyone at the time. But yeah, we hit 10,000 before we hit a limit. It was, and I think that's more to the point. We could get more out of the ovens at that point before we actually got to the point where we actually satisfied all of the crowds that were coming. And I think Harvey's was the same, wasn't it? It was pretty much the same.
I think we used a third of their production.
Yeah, it was crazy, absolutely crazy.
So a couple of questions. What's the average pie consumption at the AMEX per game now?
We still produce, we do lots of varieties now. So we do the sausage rolls, which I know you've had. So we do more of a mix now. So the sausage rolls took off when we put those in as well. So we have like a mix of pies and sausage rolls and hospitality products. So there's quite a big mix, but we still sell around sort of 7,000 a game, really, 7,000 to 8,000 a game. It's quite significant. So
when you think of football catering going back 30 years, it was diabolical. It's so different now.
So you mentioned that when we did the tender that there was 3 companies. I presume they were all local companies at the time.
It's a long time ago. I think one was a local and one was more national.
One was more national.
One was a smallish, I do tend to remember it's a smallish local company, can't remember the name, and one was a pie brand I'd heard of before.
So was there a decision, or is the decision, I suppose, still from then till now, is that important to Brighton, do you think?
Yeah, very much so. I think, all big businesses need to be sensitive to sustainability issues. Local football club is so intricate with the local community, and the people who are working in these businesses are our fans. So I mean, you have to be commercial. Let's not beat about the club's got heart of gold, but it's not. It's still going to make money.
Of course, yeah.
But you know, and I wasn't in the position of actually issuing the orders because they're catering all the club were. But from my point of view, if the price was in sort of 5%, definitely the nearer to the area would sway that 5. Yeah, I'd go 5% dearer if it was a local company. So everything's got a price, and once it gets silly, once it's 40% dearer, you have to
look about.
You have to look at it because then you get a kickback from the supporters. Why are the pies so expensive? So it's a very difficult balancing act. But lots of times you weigh up the overall. You have to weigh up the overall picture. The quality is right up there. The cost, and the location of the manufacturer. So they're the sort of three key, excuse the pun, the key ingredients of the philosophy of pie buying.
Yeah, no, for sure. And do you think that's important to the fans, and that's why it's been so successful?
The fans who think about it, lots of people don't necessarily think about that so much. But I mean, Brighton fans are pretty savvy, and they realise. I think they would much prefer a local produce. I mean, remember we and I think we still do. When you get an away team, we serve their local beers for the away fans. So that was quite novel, and I think that's really good.
I think you put the lights as well, don't you?
We did to
away.
begin with. I don't think
do that
anymore.
so much anymore, no.
But
want to terrorise them now, yeah.
Well, we don't want to make it too comfy, do we?
We don't want them winning or anything.
But we can serve them as much of their own beer because we probably get a decent markup on that. So.
Yeah. That's pretty good. No, it's a nice touch, really.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that
they pay their the money for the tickets, and we want to be inclusive, which brings on the ladies football, women's football. It brings a different dynamics and different people come, so it's all part of the club, and to be because we were only as directors, you're only custodians of the club. You don't really only, you're custodians, and it's all part of the local community, employing local people. We love seeing the Lewis Dunks and the Solly Marchers and the Jack Inchwoods who are local, and they've come up through the team, and it's all part and parcel of being the community, and that leads on to success.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's how it's holistic. It's all part of of important. And if you get all that right, you're usually going to make some money. In business, football's set different, but usually in normal businesses, if you look after your people, you try and shop locally, you're going to have a decent business.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it anyway.
It's quite symbiotic as well, because we have a lot of fans that are working for us as well, that are very invested, because they come up and support as well.
Are you saying they spit in the Arsenal pies, but
no, none of that.
No.
Our EHO might be watching. No, not at all.
You don't make them for Crystal Palace, do you?
No, we don't. Interesting story. So I was asked by Stephen a couple of times to go and pitch, and I think Martin introduced me, bizarrely. And I did say to both Martin Perry at the time and also to Stephen that I didn't think that either way it was going to probably go badly. Either Brighton fans were going to end up in uproar, or Crystal Palace fans might end up throwing the pies on the pitch. So I wasn't sure that was such a smart move. I was a bit like, that's probably not going to work, is it? So we don't supply Crystal Palace, no.
And let them have the cheap, nasty one. They wouldn't understand quality up there anyway, would they? So they wouldn't, I'm afraid.
I didn't think the fans would probably appreciate the connection having come from Brighton, whether that would actually work, to be honest.
But mutton and grizzled pies don't go down very well. Quality, they just wouldn't understand.
Martin did introduce me to Stephen, but we don't supply Crystal Palace. No,
Oh,
all Brighton fans would be really pleased to know that.
Definitely. Make sure that clip isn't cut out. We've got to make sure they all know. Yeah.
So if you're looking back over because you've had an amazing history with the club, and the club's got such an amazing history, is there like one kind of moment that you would say is a standout moment for you, being part of the club, and that was like, that was the moment that you remember, or is that's just too there's too
Well,
many to mention really?
there's lots. I was actually one of the group of guys who named the club the Seagulls in 1975. So there's a lot of history. Just go on the internet and put the lads who named Brighton the Seagulls. See a picture slightly younger one of me. You've got to say the Doncaster home game brings a lump to your throat. I felt the time we beat Liverpool 3-0 to watch my team play Liverpool off the park, that did bring a lump to my throat. And then going back pre-AMEX days when we were up at Newcastle in 1971 and got promoted, that was special. But, I mean, there's three things in life certain, which is death, taxes, and one game, Brighton, they let you down sometimes. But
For every great one.
no, I mean, since Tony's been involved, you have to pinch yourself.
Yeah.
But, it's all a dream.
Europe, right? That was pretty special.
That was, well, just unbelievable, really. And of those games, Marseille away was phenomenal. Like I say, I watch England all around the world, but I've never seen a crowd like Marseille away. And the Marseille home game when we qualified and Pedro scored right at the end, that was a special night.
Yeah, that was amazing.
So but as I say to my wife, it's better than shopping going to the football on a Saturday afternoon, even if we lose. So it's at one time the club didn't look like they survived. So every game's a plus really since then. So it's been great.
I'd say the Athens trip was quite special. That was quite a trip because I went with my son on our own, and that was really, really good trip, minus the tear gas at the end.
All right.
That wasn't so good, but that was quite a good trip as well. But yeah, I think Europe was definitely special from the last sort of years of being at the AMEX. That was quite something to see in Europe on our pitch.
It beats Hartlepool away, that's for sure.
Yeah, it does. Well, thank you ever so much for taking us down memory lane for the last 15 years ago. It was really nice to catch up and to hear how we got selected, and thank you ever so much for your support.
And thank you for being the official pie provider of Brighton Hove Albion Football Club.
Thank you very much.